The clock struck 6:47 p.m. And I was running late again, my sneakers slapping against the cracked pavement of Willow Street. The same street, the same fading sunset, the same suffocating dread curling in my chest. I'd lived this day June 12, 2023 40-7 times. And no matter what I did, it always ended with me losing him. My name is Ethan Carter, 22. A barista with dreams bigger than this sleepy Ohio town. I'd been stuck in this time loop for weeks. Maybe months time blurs when every day resets. It started after that fight with Lucas. My best friend. My maybe something more. The guy who made my heart race and my head spin. We'd grown up together. Two kids throwing rocks at the quarry. Sharing secrets under the stars. But that night, outside Murphy's diner, his blue eyes blazed with anger. And he walked away. By morning, I was back at 6:47 a.m. Trapped in the same damn day. Today, I sprinted toward the alley where I knew he'd be, my breath hitching as I rounded the corner. There he was, Lucas Hayes, 21, blonde hair catching the last light. His hoodie sleeves rolled up to reveal the tattoo of a sparrow on his forearm. He stood by the brick wall, holding a letter I'd written but never sent, his fingers trembling. "Ethan," he said, voice low, "why didn't you tell me?" I froze. This was new. In every loop. He'd never seen the letter, the one where I poured out my feelings. The one I'd stuffed in my jacket pocket. Too scared to give him. I didn't know how. I stammered. My heart pounding. I was afraid you'd hate me. Lucas stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "Hate you? Ethan, I've been waiting for you to say anything for years." His voice cracked, and I saw it, the same fear, the same longing I'd buried deep. But before I could respond, headlights flashed at the end of the alley. A car. The car. The one that always came at 7:03 p.m. Screeching through the loop's cruel script. "Lucas, move," I shouted, grabbing his arm. We stumbled back as the car roared past, missing us by inches. My pulse thundered, not just from the near miss, but from his hand gripping mine, warm and steady. "We need to talk," he said, pulling me toward the diner. Now. Inside Murphy's, the fluorescent lights buzzed, and the smell of burnt coffee filled the air. We slid into a booth, the same one we'd sat in 100 times as kids, sneaking fries and dreaming of escaping this town. But tonight felt different. The letter lay between us, crumpled but heavy with truth. "You wrote this," Lucas said, his voice soft but urgent. "You said you love me. Is it true?" I swallowed hard, the weight of 47 loops pressing down. "Yeah, it's true. It's always been true." His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought the loop might break right there. But then his phone buzzed, and his face fell. "It's my dad," he muttered. "He's pissed I'm out late again." Lucas's dad, Pastor Hayes, ran the local church and had a temper that could shake the pews. He'd never accepted Lucas's questions about himself, his quiet defiance, the way he'd stopped going to services. I knew what came next in the loop. Lucas would leave. We'd fight. And I'd wake up at 6:47 a.m. Again. "Don't go," I said, grabbing his wrist. "Not tonight." He hesitated, his jaw tight. "Ethan, you don't get it. If I don't go home, he stopped. But I knew. The bruises Lucas hid under his hoodie, the ones he never talked about. My stomach twisted. "Then I'm coming with you," I said, standing. "We face him together." The walk to Lucas's house was silent, the summer air thick with humidity and unspoken words. His house loomed ahead, a white colonial with a cross on the lawn. Inside, Pastor Hayes was waiting, his face red with fury. "Lucas, you're late," he barked, then froze when he saw me. "Carter, what's this?" "Dad, we need to talk," Lucas said, his voice steady but thin. He glanced at me, and I nodded, my heart racing. This was new territory, a deviation from the loop. I didn't know what would happen, but for the first time, I felt like we might rewrite the script. Pastor Hayes's eyes narrowed. "Talk. About what?" "This nonsense you've been spouting." He gestured at the letter in Lucas's hand, and my blood ran cold. He'd seen it. "You think you can just choose this? Send like this in my house?" "It's not a choice," Lucas snapped, stepping forward. "It's who I am." "And Ethan," he looked at me, his voice softening. "Ethan's part of that." My chest tightened, a mix of fear and hope. This was the moment I'd been chasing through every loop. But the air crackled with danger. Pastor Hayes lunged, grabbing Lucas's arm. "You're not my son if you do this." I stepped between them, my voice shaking but firm. "Let him go." The room spun, and I braced for impact fists. Words, or worse. But Lucas pulled free, his eyes blazing. "We're leaving," he said, dragging me toward the door. Outside, the night was heavy, stars hidden by clouds. We ran, hearts pounding, until we reached the quarry, our old hiding spot. Lucas collapsed against a rock, his breath ragged. "I can't keep doing this," he whispered. "Hiding. Pretending." I knelt beside him, my hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to. Not anymore." But as I said it, the world flickered, like a TV screen glitching. The loop was fighting back. I had to keep him here, keep him safe, or I'd lose him again by morning. The quarry was our sanctuary, a jagged bowl of stone carved out by years of forgotten labor. Lucas and I sat on a slab of granite, the cool rock grounding us as the world flickered again. A subtle pulse like reality was holding its breath. I'd seen this before 47 times. The loop tightening when I got too close to changing things. "Ethan," Lucas said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why now? Why tell me now?" His blue eyes caught the moonlight, searching mine for answers I wasn't sure I had. The letter, now creased and worn, lay in his lap like a fragile bridge between us. "I've been trying to tell you forever," I said, my throat tight. "Every day, I wake up at 6:47 a.m. And it's the same damn day. I've watched you walk away, fight with your dad, disappear into that car." I stopped, the memory of screeching tires cutting through me. I thought if I could just say it, if I could make you see, maybe I'd break this. Lucas frowned, his fingers tracing the sparrow tattoo on his arm. "You're saying you're stuck in a time loop. Like Groundhog Day." He laughed, but it was hollow, nervous. "That's insane, Ethan." "I know how it sounds." I leaned closer, desperate for him to believe me. "But I've lived this day over and over. I know every word you'll say, every move you'll make. Like how you'll check your phone in 10 seconds because your dad's calling again." His hand twitched toward his pocket, then froze. His face paled as his phone buzzed. "Right on cue." "How did you?" He silenced it, staring at me like I was a ghost. "Okay. Say I believe you. Why is this happening?" "I think it's about us," I said, my voice cracking. "About me being too scared to tell you I love you. About you hiding who you are because of your dad. This town. Everything." I gestured at the darkness around us, the weight of Willow Creek's judgment pressing in. "Maybe the loop won't break until we stop hiding." Lucas looked away, his jaw tight. "You don't know what it's like," he said. "My dad's not just strict these Relentless. Church every Sunday. Prayers every night. And if I step out of line, he trailed off. But I saw the shadow in his eyes. The kind that came from years of fear. I know more than you think, I said softly. I'd seen the bruises in other loops. Glimpsed the way he flinched when his dad raised his voice. I've tried saving you, Lucas. I've tried everything, dragging you to the diner, hiding you at my place, even stealing your dad's car keys. Nothing works. The loop resets, and you're gone again. He turned to me, his expression raw. So what do we do? Run away? Just leave? There was a spark of hope in his voice, but it was laced with doubt. Leaving meant abandoning his mom, his little sister, the life he'd known. Before I could answer, headlights cut through the quarry's edge. My stomach dropped. It wasn't the same car from the alley, but I knew that engines rumble past Pastor Hayes' old pickup. He found us, Lucas whispered, his voice shaking. He grabbed my hand, pulling me behind a boulder. He can't see us together. Not like this. We crouched, hearts pounding, as boots crunched on gravel. Lucas. Pastor Hayes' voice echoed, sharp and commanding. I know you're here. Come out, boy, or I'll drag you home myself. The beam of a flashlight swept over the rocks, and I felt Lucas tremble beside me. He's not going to stop, I whispered. We have to face him. Together. I'd tried running in other loops. Hiding. Lying. It never worked. The loop always found a way to pull us back. Lucas shook his head, his grip tightening. You don't get it, Ethan. If he knows about us, he stopped. But I knew. Pastor Hayes had influence in Willow Creek. He could make life hell. Not just for Lucas, but for me. My mom. Anyone who dared defy him. Then we make him listen, I said, standing. No more hiding. I stepped out from behind the boulder, my heart hammering as the flashlight beam hit me. Pastor Hayes stood 10 feet away, his face a mask of rage. Carter, he spat. You're behind this, aren't you? Filling my son's head with filth. He took a step forward, and I braced myself. But Lucas was suddenly beside me, his shoulders squared. Dad. Stop, Lucas said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. This isn't Ethan's fault. It's me. It's who I am. He reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. And for a moment, the world stopped flickering. It felt real. Solid. Like we'd finally shifted something. Pastor Hayes' face contorted, a mix of disbelief and fury. You're no son of mine, he growled, raising a hand. I stepped in front of Lucas, ready for whatever came next. But the ground trembled a low, unnatural hum, like the loop itself was protesting. The flashlight flickered, and Pastor Hayes froze, his eyes wide. What the hell is that? He muttered, looking around. The air pulsed, heavy and electric, and I knew we were close. Close to breaking it. Or close to losing everything. Lucas, I said, turning to him. Whatever happens, I'm with you. He nodded, his eyes locked on mine. And for the first time in 47 loops, I felt like we might actually win. The quarry hummed, a low vibration that made the air feel alive. Like the loop was a living thing, fighting to keep us trapped. Lucas's hand was still in mine, his grip tight, grounding me as Pastor Hayes stood frozen, his flashlight beam jittering across the rocks. This isn't right, he muttered, his voice shaky, the first crack I'd ever seen in his iron facade. Dad, listen to me, Lucas said, stepping forward, his voice cutting through the strange hum. I'm not what you want me to be. I never was. But I'm still your son. His words were steady, but I saw the tremor in his shoulders. The weight of years spent trying to fit into a mold that didn't fit. Pastor Hayes's face twisted, torn between rage and something softer confusion. Maybe fear. "You're confused," he said, his voice low, almost pleading. This isn't you. It's him." He jabbed a finger at me, and I felt the loop's pulse quicken, like it was feeding on his anger. "I'm not confused," Lucas said, his voice rising. "I've known who I am for years. I've just been too scared to say it because of you." He took a step closer to his dad, and I moved with him, our hands still linked. "I love Ethan, and I'm done pretending I don't." The words hit like a shockwave. My chest tightened, not just from the confession, but from the way the world flickered again. Harder this time, like a film reel skipping. The loop didn't like this. It didn't like us rewriting the script. Pastor Hayes staggered back, his flashlight dropping to the ground, the beam spinning wildly. "You're throwing away your soul," he whispered, but his voice lacked the fire it had before. He looked at Lucas, then at me, and for a moment, I thought he might break. But then his jaw tightened, and he lunged, grabbing Lucas's arm. "You're coming home. Now." "No," I shouted, pulling Lucas back. The air crackled, and the hum grew louder, vibrating in my bones. The quarry seemed to tilt, shadows stretching unnaturally. Pastor Hayes froze, his eyes wide, as if he felt it too. "What is this?" he demanded, looking around. "It's the loop," I said, my voice shaking. "We're stuck in this day, and it's because of you, because of what you're doing to him." I didn't know if he'd believe me, but I had to try. "Every time you push him away, every time you make him hide, it traps us here." Pastor Hayes stared at me, his face a mix of disbelief and fear. "You're insane," he said, but his voice wavered. He looked at Lucas, whose eyes were wet but defiant. "Is this true?" he asked, quieter now. Lucas nodded. "I don't know about loops, but I know I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending for you." His voice broke, and he squeezed my hand. "Ethan's the only thing that feels real." The hum intensified, and the ground shook, small pebbles rattling around us. I felt the loop was fraying, its edges unraveling. But it wasn't enough. Pastor Hayes's face hardened again, and he reached for Lucas. "You're coming with me," he said, his voice cold. I didn't think. I just acted, shoving Pastor Hayes back. He stumbled, shock flashing across his face. "Don't touch him," I said, my voice low. "Dangerous." Lucas looked at me, his eyes wide, and I saw gratitude, fear, love, all tangled together. "Enough," Pastor Hayes roared. But before he could move, the world lurched. The hum became a deafening pulse, and the quarry blurred, like reality was melting. Lucas grabbed my arm, pulling me close. "Ethan, what's happening?" "I don't know," I said, my heart racing. "But we're close. We're changing something." The air shimmered, and for a split second, I saw flashes of other loops. Lucas walking away, the car in the alley, the diner empty. Then it snapped back, and we were still in the quarry. Pastor Hayes staring at us like he'd seen a ghost. "You're both damned," he said, but his voice was weak, almost broken. He turned, staggering toward his truck, and I knew this was our chance. "Lucas," I said, turning to him, "we have to go? Now?" He nodded, but his eyes lingered on his dad's retreating figure. "What about him?" he asked, his voice small. "What about my mom? My sister?" "We'll figure it out," I said, pulling him toward the quarry's edge. "But we can't stay here. Not tonight." We ran, the hum fading behind us. But I felt the loop was still there, waiting to snap us back. We needed more than defiance. We needed to break free completely. We reached my old pickup, parked near the quarry's entrance. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking. "Where are we going?" Lucas asked, climbing in beside me. "Anywhere but here," I said, starting the engine. The truck roared to life, and we peeled out, the lights of Willow Creek fading in the rearview mirror. But as we hit the highway, the world flickered again, and my heart sank. The loop wasn't done with us yet. The highway stretched before us, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the Ohio night. Lucas sat beside me in the pickup, his hands clenched in his lap, the letter still tucked into his hoodie pocket. The world flickered again, streetlights blurring like smudged paint, and I gripped the steering wheel, willing the loop to hold off just a little longer. "Where are we even going?" Lucas asked, his voice quiet but steady. His blonde hair fell into his eyes, and he pushed it back, glancing at me with a mix of trust and uncertainty. I wanted to tell him we'd be okay, that we'd outrun this cursed day. But the truth was, I didn't know. "Away," I said, my eyes fixed on the road. "There's a motel in Canton, about an hour out. We'll stop there, figure out what's next." I'd tried this before, in Loop 32, but the motel had vanished when the clock reset at midnight. This time felt different. Though Lucas's confession, his hand in mine, the way we'd faced his dad, maybe it was enough to shift the loop's grip. He nodded, staring out the window at the passing cornfields. "I've never stood up to him like that," he said, almost to himself. "All these years, I just took it. The yelling, the rules, the way he looks at me like I'm broken." His voice cracked, and my chest ached. "You're not broken," I said, glancing at him. "You're the strongest person I know." I meant it. Through every loop, Lucas had been the one constant, the one thing worth fighting for. Even when he didn't know about the loop, he'd always found a way to pull me back from giving up. He gave a small, sad smile. "You're biased." But his hand reached over, resting on mine on the gear shift. And for a moment, the world felt solid, real. Then the radio crackled, static cutting through the silence, and the loop's hum returned, low and menacing. "Ethan," Lucas said, his voice tight. The road. I looked ahead, and my stomach dropped. The highway was warping, the lines twisting like they were being erased. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding to a stop. The world flickered again, and for a split second, we were back in the quarry, Pastor Hayes's flashlight blinding us. Then we snapped back to the highway, the truck still shuddering. "It's fighting us," I said, my heart pounding. "The loop doesn't want us to leave." I'd seen this before, small glitches when I tried to change too much, but never this intense. The air felt heavy, like we were pushing against an invisible wall. Lucas's eyes widened. "What do we do?" He was scared, but he didn't let go of my hand. That gave me courage, more than I'd felt in any loop before. "We keep going," I said, pressing the gas. The truck lurched forward, and the world flickered again. But I didn't stop. "We've already changed things. You stood up to your dad. You told him about us. That's got to mean something." He nodded, his jaw tight. "Okay. But if this doesn't work, what happens to us?" His voice was small, and I saw the fear he'd been hiding, the fear of losing his family, his home, himself. "We'll figure it out," I said, echoing my words from the quarry. "Together." But doubt gnawed at me. I tried running before, and the loop always pulled us back. What made this time different? Was it Lucas's confession? My letter? Or was it something bigger? Something we hadn't faced yet? The motel's sign glowed in the distance. A flickering neon beacon. We pulled into the lot, the gravel crunching under the tires. The place was run down, with peeling paint and a vending machine that hadn't worked since the 90s. I parked, and we sat in silence, the engine ticking as it cooled. "We're here," I said, turning to Lucas. "But we need to talk. Really talk." I'd spent 47 loops chasing him, but we'd never had a moment to just be, to lay it all bare. He nodded, pulling the letter from his pocket. "You wrote this," he said, his voice soft. "You said you've loved me since we were kids. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I swallowed hard, the weight of every loop pressing down. I was scared. Scared you'd laugh. Or worse, that you'd walk away. This town, your dad, the way everyone looks at us, it's easier to hide. He looked at me, his eyes steady. I was scared too, but not anymore. He leaned closer, his hand brushing my cheek, and my breath caught. The world flickered, but this time, it didn't pull us back. His lips met mine, soft and tentative, and for a moment, the loop didn't exist. It was just us, real and unbroken. But the hum returned, louder now, and the motel sign flickered out. The air pulsed, and I knew we weren't free yet. "We need to keep moving," I said, pulling back. "The loop's not done with us." Lucas nodded, his eyes fierce. "Then let's break it. Together." The motel room smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap air freshener. But it was ours for the night, a fragile bubble outside Willow Creek's grasp. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed, his hoodie sleeves pushed up, the sparrow tattoo stark against his pale skin. I paced, the loop's hum still vibrating in my bones. A reminder that time wasn't on our side. "We can't just keep running," Lucas said, his voice steady but laced with worry. "If what you're saying is true, this loop, it's going to pull us back no matter where we go." He looked at me, his blue eyes searching. "What's the one thing we haven't tried?" I stopped pacing, my mind racing through 47 loops. I tried saving him, hiding him, fighting his dad, even stealing a car to get us out of town. But Lucas was right, running wasn't enough. The loop wasn't just about escaping Willow Creek. It was about facing something deeper, something we'd both been avoiding. I hesitated. The words heavy. "I think it's about us being honest. Not just with each other, but with everyone. Your dad, this town, ourselves." I sat beside him, the mattress creaking under my weight. "Every loop. I've tried to protect you. But maybe it's not about protecting. Maybe it's about fighting together." Lucas's jaw tightened, and he looked down at the letter in his hands. "You mean coming out?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not just to my dad, but to everyone. No more hiding." I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yeah, I think that's what the loop wants. For us to stop being afraid." It sounded simple, but in a town like Willow Creek, where Pastor Hayes's church cast a long shadow, coming out wasn't just personal, it was a revolution. Lucas let out a shaky breath. "I've thought about it a million times. Telling my mom, my sister, the guys at the garage where I work. But every time, I see my dad's face, hear his voice quoting scripture, and I freeze." He looked at me, his eyes wet. "What if they all turn on me?" "Then we face it together," I said, taking his hand. "I've lived this day enough times to know I'd rather lose everything than lose you." My voice cracked, and Lucas's expression softened, a small smile breaking through. "Okay," he said, squeezing my hand. "But we need a plan. We can't just walk into town and announce it. My dad's got half the town under his thumb." He was right. Pastor Hayes wasn't just a father. He was a force. his sermons shaping Willow Creek's moral code. I stood, pulling him up with me. Then we start small. Your mom, your sister, they love you. They'll listen. I'd met Mrs. Hayes and little Sophie in other loops kind. Quiet. Caught in Pastor Hayes's orbit, but not cruel. We go to them first. Before your dad can spin this his way. Lucas nodded. But the hum grew louder. The room flickering like a bad signal. The lamp on the nightstand blinked out. Then back on. Ethan, he said, his voice tight. It's happening again. I grabbed his shoulders, anchoring us both. Stay with me. Focus on me. The world tilted. And for a moment, we were back in the alley, the car's headlights blinding us. Then we snapped back to the motel, my hand still on him. We're stronger than this, I said, my voice fierce. The loop can't hold us if we don't let it. He nodded, his eyes locked on mine. Okay, let's do this. Tomorrow. Well, today, I guess. He gave a small laugh, and it was the first time I'd heard him sound hopeful in any loop. We didn't sleep. We talked, planned, shared stories of the moments we'd both been too scared to act auntie glances at the quarry. The late-night talks in my garage. The way our hands brushed when we passed a soda can. By dawn, the hum had faded, but I knew it wasn't gone. The loop was waiting, testing us. We drove back to Willow Creek as the sun rose, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold. Lucas's house was quiet, the cross on the lawn glinting in the light. We knocked, and Mrs. Hayes answered, her eyes tired but kind. Lucas. Ethan. What's going on? Mom. We need to talk, Lucas said, his voice steady. Sophie, his 10-year-old sister, peeked out from the kitchen, her braids swinging. Hey, Ethan, she chirped, oblivious to the tension. We sat in the living room, the air heavy with the scent of lavender candles. Lucas took a deep breath, his hand finding mine under the table. Mom. Sophie. He began. There's something I need to tell you. About me. About us. The world flickered, but I held his hand tighter, and it steadied. Mrs. Hayes's eyes widened, but she didn't speak. Sophie tilted her head, curious. Lucas's voice shook, but he didn't stop. I'm gay, he said, the words ringing clear. And I love Ethan. The room was silent, the hum gone for the first time in hours. Mrs. Hayes's eyes filled with tears, but she reached for Lucas's hand. Oh, honey, she whispered. I just want you to be happy. Sophie grinned. Does this mean Ethan's gonna be around more? Lucas laughed. A real laugh. And I felt the loop's grip loosen. Just a little. But then the front door slammed open, and Pastor Hayes stood there, his face dark with rage. Pastor Hayes filled the doorway, his shadow stretching across the living room like a storm cloud. His eyes locked on our joined hands, Lucas's and mine, and his face contorted with a fury I'd seen too many times in the loops. What is this? He demanded, his voice low. Dangerous. Mrs. Hayes stood, her hands trembling but her voice firm. Rick, sit down. We're talking. Sophie shrank back, clutching her cereal bowl, her wide eyes darting between her parents. Lucas squeezed my hand, his palm sweaty but steady, and I knew this was the moment the loop had been building toward. Talking. Pastor Hayes spat, stepping inside. About what? This abomination. He gestured at us, his voice rising. Lucas, I told you to stay away from him. And now you bring this into our home. Richard. Stop. Mrs. Hayes said, her voice sharp. He's our son. Her words hung in the air, a quiet defiance I hadn't seen in her before. In other loops, she'd stayed silent, cowed by her husband's anger. This was new, and it gave me hope. Lucas stood, pulling me with him. "Dad, I'm not hiding anymore," he said, his voice shaking but clear. "I'm gay. I love Ethan. And I'm done pretending for you." Each word was a hammer, chipping away at the loop's hold. The air pulsed, but it was weaker now, like a dying heartbeat. Pastor Hayes's face reddened, his fists clenching. "You think you can just declare this and walk away? You're throwing away your family, your faith, everything." He took a step toward Lucas, and I moved in front of him, my heart pounding. "Back off," I said, my voice low but firm. I'd faced him in other loops, taken his hits, his words. But this time, I wasn't alone. Lucas was with me, and Mrs. Hayes was watching, her eyes fierce. "Richard, enough," she said, stepping between us. "You don't get to decide who Lucas loves, or who he is." Her voice broke, but she held her ground. "I've watched you push him away for years. No more." Sophie ran to Lucas, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I don't care who you love," she said, her voice muffled. "You're still my brother." Lucas's eyes filled with tears, and he hugged her back, his shoulders shaking. Pastor Hayes staggered, like the fight had been knocked out of him. "You're all against me," he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. The room flickered, the walls blurring for a split second, and I felt the loop was cracking, its edges fraying like old fabric. "We're not against you," Lucas said, his voice softer now. "We just want you to see me. Really see me." He stepped forward, letting go of my hand, but standing tall. "I'm your son, Dad, and I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, I thought Pastor Hayes might soften. His eyes flickered with something pain, maybe regret. But then his jaw tightened, and he turned away. "Get out," he said, his voice cold. "All of you." "Mrs. Hayes gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Richard, you can't." I said, "Get out." He roared, and the world shook, the hum returning with a vengeance. The room tilted, and for a moment, we were back in the alley, the car's headlights blinding us. Then we snapped back, and Pastor Hayes was gone, the front door slamming behind him. Lucas sank onto the couch, his face pale. "He's never going to change," he whispered. Mrs. Hayes sat beside him, pulling him into a hug. "He will," she said, her voice fierce. "Or he'll lose us all." I knelt in front of Lucas, taking his hands. "We did it," I said, my voice shaking. "We faced him. Together." The hum was still there, but it was faint, like a distant echo. The loop wasn't broken, but it was weaker. We'd taken a step, a big one. "What now?" Lucas asked, his eyes searching mine. Sophie looked up, her braids swinging, and Mrs. Hayes watched us, her expression a mix of pride and fear. "We keep going," I said. "We tell the town. Your friends at the garage. My coworkers at the diner. We show them who we are." I'd seen enough loops to know fear thrived in silence. If we wanted to break free, we had to be loud. Lucas nodded, a spark of determination in his eyes. "Okay, but we need to be smart about it. This town, it's not ready for us." He was right. Willow Creek was small, conservative, Pastor Hayes's influence woven into its core. But we weren't alone anymore. Mrs. Hayes stood, wiping her eyes. "I'll talk to the women's group at church," she said. "They listened to me. And Sophie can stay with my sister for a bit." Until things settle. She looked at Lucas. Her smile soft. I'm proud of you, honey. The hum faded completely, and for the first time in 47 loops, I felt the world hold steady. We weren't free yet, but we were close. As we left the house, Lucas's hand in mine, I knew the next step would be harder, but we'd face it together. Word count, 1000. /Xi artifact. Xi artifact artifact ID equals 46807D63F340B59DFF19295FBD136. Artifact underscore version ID equals 4930B528B14612B6413986. Title equals trapped underscore in underscore the underscore same underscore loop underscore over underscore and underscore over underscore part 7. TXT content type equals text /markdown. The morning sun burned through the haze over Willow Creek, casting long shadows as Lucas and I walked toward the garage where he worked. His steps were deliberate, his jaw set, but his hand trembled in mine. We decided to start here, with the guys he'd known since high school, the ones who'd seen him at his best and worst. You sure about this? I asked, pausing outside the garage. The smell of oil and metal drifted out, mingling with the summer heat. Inside, the clank of tools and laughter echoed, a world that felt both familiar and hostile. Lucas nodded, his eyes fierce. If we're going to break this loop, we need to be real. No more hiding. He squeezed my hand, then let go, stepping through the open bay door. I followed, my heart pounding, ready for whatever came next. The garage was a hive of activity. 3 guys in grease-stained coveralls, working on a pickup. Mike, the owner, looked up, his beard flecked with gray. Lucas, you're late, he said, then noticed me. Ethan, what's up? Lucas took a deep breath, his voice steady. I need to tell you guys something. The others, Joey and Sam, both in their 20s, stopped working, their eyes curious. I'm gay, Lucas said, the words ringing out. And Ethan's my boyfriend. The garage went silent, the only sound the faint hum of the loop, barely audible now. Mike wiped his hands on a rag, his face unreadable. Joey smirked, but it wasn't cruel, just surprised. Sam crossed his arms, frowning. For real? He asked. For real, Lucas said, standing taller. I've been hiding it too long. I'm done with that. He glanced at me, and I nodded, stepping closer. My own coming out had been quieter, just to my mom in loop 23. But standing here with Lucas felt bigger, like we were rewriting the town itself. Mike cleared his throat. Well, shit, kid. Takes guts to say that. He looked at me, then back at Lucas. You're still the best mechanic I've got. Don't change that. It wasn't acceptance. Not fully, but it was a start. Joey shrugged, going back to his wrench. Sam hesitated, then nodded. Live your truth, man. The hum faded further, and I felt the loop's grip slip. We'd done Itikin another step. But as we left the garage, Lucas's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. It's my dad. He's at the church. Wants to see me. My stomach twisted. Pastor Hayes hadn't softened last night, and I didn't trust him now. You don't have to go, I said. But Lucas shook his head. I do. If we're going to break this, I need to face him again. For good. His eyes were determined. But I saw the fear there. The same fear I'd seen in every loop. We drove to the church, a squat brick building with a steeple that loomed over Willow Creek. Inside, the pews were empty, the air cool and heavy with the scent of polished wood. Pastor Hayes stood at the altar, his face grim. Lucas, he said, his voice flat. You've made your choice. I have, Lucas said, stepping forward. And I'm not changing it. I love Ethan. And I'm not ashamed of that. His voice was strong, but I saw his hands shake. And I stepped closer, ready to back him up. Pastor Hayes's eyes narrowed. You think you can defy God's will? This town won't accept you. I won't let it. He gestured at the empty pews, as if the whole congregation stood behind him. Then they're wrong, I said, my voice steady. And so are you. Lucas is your son, and he's worth more than your sermons. The words felt like a release, like I'd been holding them through every loop. The air pulsed, but it was faint, almost gone. Pastor Hayes's face softened for a split second, then hardened again. Get out, he said, turning away. You're no longer welcome here. Lucas's shoulders sagged, but he nodded. Fine, but I'm not giving up on you. Dad. Not yet. We left the church, the door closing behind us with a heavy thud. Outside, the sun was high, and the hum was gone. For the first time in 47 loops, the world felt steady, real. We walked to the diner, where my coworkers were setting up for the lunch rush. I took Lucas's hand, and we stepped inside, ready to tell them. One by one, we'd face the town, our friends, our fears. Each step felt like a crack in the loop's foundation, and I knew we were closito breaking free. The diner was packed, the clatter of plates and chatter filling the air as Lucas and I stood by the counter. My coworkers Jenny, the manager, and Carlos. The line cook glanced over. Curious but busy. I'd worked here 3 years, pouring coffee and dodging gossip. But today was different. Today, we were rewriting the script. Guys, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. The diner quieted, customers turning to look. Lucas stood beside me, his hand in mine, his eyes steady despite the nervous twitch in his jaw. We've got something to say. Jenny raised an eyebrow, wiping her hands on her apron. Carlos leaned out from the kitchen, his face open but wary. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 47 loops behind me. Lucas and I are together, I said, my voice clear. We're in love, and we're not hiding it anymore. The diner went silent. Forks paused midair. Jenny's eyes widened, but she smiled. A small, genuine curve. About time. Ethan, she said, her voice warm. Carlos grinned, giving a thumbs up. Good for you, man. A few customers whispered. Some nodded. Others looked away. But the hum didn't return. The loop was silent, its grip almost gone. Lucas squeezed my hand, his smile breaking through. Thanks, guys, he said, his voice thick with emotion. We'd faced his dad, his coworkers, now mine. Each step chipped away at the fear that had kept us trapped, not just in the loop but in ourselves. As we left the diner, the sun was setting, painting Willow Creek in hues of orange and pink. We walked to the quarry, our old sanctuary, and sat on the same granite slab where we'd hidden from his dad. Lucas leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. I think we're close, he said, his voice soft, to breaking it. I know we are, I said, my arm around him. The world hadn't flickered all day, the hum gone for good. But I felt I-tone last piece was missing. One final truth we had to face. Lucas, why do you think the loop started? Really? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the sparrow tattoo. I think it was me, he said finally. I was so scared of losing everything me family. My home. You. I kept pushing you away, even when I didn't want to. Maybe the loop was my punishment, or my chance to get it right. I turned to him, my heart aching. It's not just you. I was scared too. Scared to tell you. Scared to lose you. Every loop. I tried to save you. But I was saving myself too. I took his face in my hands. My thumbs brushing his cheeks. We're not trapped anymore. Not by the loop. Not by this town. He smiled, tears in his eyes, and kissed me, slow and certain. The world didn't flicker, didn't hum. It held steady, real and ours. As we pulled apart, the stars blinked above, brighter than I'd ever seen them. The clock on my phone read 11:59 p.m. And I held my breath, waiting for the reset. Midnight came. Nothing happened. No flicker. No hum. No alley. Just us. The quarry. And the night stretching out before us. Lucas laughed. A sound so free it broke something in me. We did it. He whispered, pulling me close. We broke it. The next morning, I woke at 7:15 a.m. The sun streaming through my window. A new day. Lucas was beside me, still asleep, his face peaceful. I didn't know what came next: his dad's anger, the town's whispers, the life we'd build together. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid. We'd faced our fears, our truths, and come out stronger. The loop had trapped us, but it had also taught us love wasn't just a feeling. It was a choice, a fight, a promise. And we'd keep fighting, together, for every new day.